Welcome back to the Deeper 2025 podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Today we find ourselves in Psalm 36, and Psalm 36 presents this big contrast between the wickedness of humanity and the steadfast love of God. In fact, in verse 1, the psalmist begins by describing the sinfulness of the wicked, noting that there is no fear of God before their eyes. Is that not a scary place to you for someone to be, that they would act in wickedness because there is no fear of God in them, anywhere in them? But in contrast, in verse 5, we're told of God's character, and we're told that his faithful love reaches to the heavens, that he is faithful in love. The psalmist reminds us that there is refuge in God's presence, that he is the one that keeps life together, that holds everything together. And so it's an invitation for us to rely on God's unfailing love as we navigate this thing called life. So just a couple of things I want to just point out here. The first one is we've got to recognize that we need God. You know, the first thing that they say about people that have problems, maybe it's alcoholism or a drug addiction or whatever the problem may be. Maybe you're a little bit too big and you need to go to the gym. The first thing that you've got to recognize, I see some of y'all laughing at me right now, like, hey, buddy, you're pointing the finger at yourself, and I am. But the first thing I think we've got to do is recognize our need. So for alcoholics, they've got to recognize that they've got a problem. They got to recognize the need to stop. They got to recognize the drug addict, got to recognize the need to stop. The one that likes food a little too much and doesn't like working out quite as much needs to recognize that there is a problem. And all of us have to recognize that there are areas of our life that we have problems in. We all are sinners. We all have fallen short of the glory of God, and we've got to recognize that we need God. You're saying, BJ, that's easy. I'm a God follower. I know I need God. But in every area of your life, do you recognize that you need God? In every single area, are you recognizing that? We've got to recognize that we need God. And then we've got to do something that seems on the surface very easy, but in reality, sometimes it's not. We've got to embrace God's love for us. We've got to embrace God's love for us. We've got to embrace how much he loves us. Sometimes we push him away because we just can't fathom how much he loves us. We can't understand how much he loves us. And so we've got to understand that he loves us immensely, that there is nothing we can do to make him love us more, and there's nothing we can do to make him love us less. And so we embrace God's love, but then we do exactly the opposite of what verse 1 says about the wicked. Remember in verse 1, it says that there is no fear of God before their eyes. And so once we have recognized our need for God and we've embraced the love and mercy and compassion that he shows us, we then cultivate a heart of reverence, that we come to God with a deep fear and reverence of who he is and his power. And that helps us to stay away from doing wicked things. I want you to notice in verse 1, he says, the wicked have no fear of God in their eyes, before their eyes. If they had a fear of God before their eyes, they wouldn't be quite as wicked. That's exactly what the psalmist is inferring there. And so we've got to cultivate a heart of reverence and a heart of fear for God. Now, I'm not talking about a heart of fear where we just walk around thinking he's going to strike us dead anytime we do anything wrong. But there is a fear of God that we need to have, and there's a reverence for God that we need to have. And it's easier to have that once we've recognized our need and we've embraced the love that he shows to us, the compassion that he shows to us, the mercy that he gives us. And so today, recognize your need for God in every area of your life, not just in some of it, but every area of your life. Embrace God's love. Cultivate this heart that just fears God because you love him, because you know him, because you know who he is. And as you do that, live your life in a way that would honor God and that would show that you have a fear of God in you that helps you to respond and to act in certain situations like you do.